welcome to another episode of Dogdude Encounters Radio. This is your host, Vic Jaggeth. Great to have you here, folks. So get ready. It's gonna be a real doozy. Let me tell you, in all my years of doing this, I have never heard such a story. It's supernatural. It's fantastical. It's super fragilistic, expialid dog dude-ishes. Okay? So tonight's episode, we have a guest that wishes to remain anonymous, but I don't really care about that. So I'll tell you that his real name is Michael Smith. Okay? Because I don't really care about that confidentiality bull. Who cares? What could happen, So welcome to the program, Mike. How the hell are you?
Yeah! I'm ready to go, brother. So glad I'm alive. I almost didn't make it. Alright, so, how's it going, Vic, whatever the heck it is? Vic's Vapo Rub, I don't know.
Well, good evening, Mike. Wow. Yeah, I would have to say you're a very enthusiastic guest. Probably one of the most enthusiastic I've ever had, maybe. So anyways, could you give us a brief bio on yourself, Mike?
No problem. I can do that. Anytime. Any day, any week. Even right now. Well, let's just say I used to be a Marine, and I went to Afghanistan, and yeah, let's just leave it there. And then I came back, I survived, seen a lot of stuff, and kind of came back a little stressed, couldn't fit into society. So I took my my pension, my money from serving, and I just bought a house out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And that's where I live. Me, my dog, my wife, and that's it. And my guns. And that's all I do is hunt and fish and hang out in the desert and smoke cigarettes and drink a lot of Budweiser and Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is the best soda on the planet Earth. Okay, so anyways.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. That's fantastic. So just jump right in and tell us your story. Don't waste no time, Mike.
Alrighty then. So, I don't want to get into it. I'm just one of those short and sweet types of guys. I'm not afraid of nothing on earth. Except for a bullet, of course. Anyways, so one morning, me and my dog, we set out in the desert. We were hunting. We were going to just shoot anything, whatever we could find. This is out in Arizona. And we were walking, me and my dog, going out to my hideout where I hide, and then I scope out everything around me. And yeah, I can probably shoot any animal within a quarter mile away. No problem. Possible headshot. Easy as pie, Mike. Mick. Whatever the heck. Vic. So anyways, we get up in that tree stand, and I'm scoping out everything around me in the desert. And there's forest around, and nothing's going on. And me and my dog are just sitting there. And I heard this scream off in the distance. This it was so high and it was so loud that I couldn't even believe, and it was nowhere near me. I knew this must have came from a half a mile away, and it was still loud. And I had never heard anything like that in my life, of course. And I was interested, so I kept listening and I kept paying attention. And little by little, it kept screaming, and I was able to find out the, the direction it was coming from. So then I was looking out that way with my scope on my rifle, and it was in like a patch of bushes, trees. And as I was scoping out, I happened to just look up into a tree. It was maybe about 20 feet off the ground, and there was a thing on one of the branches, and it was looking around, and it was just like partly holding onto the tree, and it looked like a giant gray gorilla. But the problem was, it was freaking huge. It was standing on a branch. It was like kind of hunched over, holding onto the branch. And as I'm watching this, reality just melted. I could not believe. I didn't understand. I don't want to understand. I don't want to know. Crazy. So I'm just watching this. And this freaking thing looked like a werewolf up in a tree, gray and black. Had I That's all I can tell that it was. There's nothing else it could be. It was no wolf up in a tree. No, it was a dog. It had a canine face. Yeah. Well, Mike, could you briefly try to describe it a little bit? Like maybe like what more detail, like what it might have looked like for the folks? No problem. So I would say it was hunched over. It was kind of like on its knees, hunched over, holding onto the tree, looking around the valley, looking around the desert, probably scouting out some stuff to hunt. It didn't know I was there. It didn't know I seen it. I just sat here, and I it was like watching television, like watching some sort of paranormal show table. Like one of those great shows that you hear, those great guests, and they tell those great campfire stories, and they just gives you the chills and get your blood pumping, and you just love them. So, anyways, I would have to say it was crunched over, and it was still at 6 feet, and that was meaning it was hunched down. Like a gorilla, like they're standing and they're crunched down on their feet, and that was six. It must have been 6 feet tall. So that means if this thing stood up, it would be 9 feet tall, 100%. I would say that it was 3 times the size of me. I would say that it was 500 pounds. It had very, very thick fur on its arms and legs, and at the top of its head and around its shoulders, and around its head was so much muscle around its jaw and its chest. And it had big, huge shoulders and these huge muscles behind its head, those traps. And its chest was just like immense. And it had less hair on its chest. And you can even see little abdominals rippling in there. You can see striations, huge, huge lat muscles on each side of this creature. huge. The legs were just balls of pure muscle. Its ears were standing straight up, and they were moving, and they fell every now and then. They folded back down. They were long, and they had tips. At the tips, they had like little tuft of fur. Now, this thing was the most, definitely was an alpha predator. So I got a good look at it. I got a good look at its face. My scope was dead on. Its eyes were huge. I would say they were about 3 inches around, kind of circular, and they kind of like went off to the sides. Its forehead kind of stuck out and went into it just had a very, very, very thick, big head with a huge, very thick, muscular jaw. And it was yawning, and its tongue was hanging out its side, and it was looking around, and it kept opening and closing its mouth. And it was just like watching a horror movie. It was just like the most amazing thing you could ever see on earth. You'd never even imagine. Your mind is blown, and I just sat there watching, and I couldn't believe it. And then all of a sudden, it stood up on the tree branch and let out this huge howl. I seen its chest open up, and its arms, and it just made this immense, booming howl. And it had like stuff leaking out of its mouth. It looked like it had dried blood all over the thing, all around on its neck. And its teeth were like, it was like so many teeth in it. Huge teeth in the front, very sharp, very, very clean. This animal was not dirty looking. It was very clean. Okay. Its fur did not look like a kind, not really as thick as like a grizzly bear. It was basically like a dog. Wow. Wow. Alrighty then, folks. Can you believe this? Okay, Mike, just continue on. Tell us the rest of it, buddy. Wow. Hallelujah. All right. So, anyways, well, so as I'm watching this thing, that thing, right when it did that big howl, my dog just went psycho. My dog just started barking, and I'm watching, kind of like trying to touch my dog on the side as I'm looking through the scope, being like, shut up, and the damn dog just kept barking. And it must have knew something was wrong, and maybe it sensed it. I don't know what happened. The dog just, from the howl, went wacko. And as I'm looking in the scope, this thing just stops everything it's doing. It looks around, and with its ears twitch back up. It's sniffing around, and it's looking around, and it closed its mouth, and it got this dead serious look on its face. And its eyes almost started to glow. And his eyes were like golden amber orange. And all of a sudden, it turned in my direction. And it started sniffing. And my dog was still making weird little squeaky noises. And it immediately knew where I was. And I'm sitting there looking at it. And it just looks, and it's right in, and as I'm looking, I just see this thing turn and stare right at me in my scope. Now, mind you, this thing must have been about, I'd have to say 500 yards away, maybe more. And it climbed down the tree. And as I'm watching it climb down the tree, it starts walking towards my direction. And that's all it took. within that, right when I seen that, I took off like a bolt of lightning down my tree and ran for my life because I knew if that thing caught up to me, I didn't have any time to waste. There was no, I was going to wait and see what it did, what it was going to do. I knew that I did not want to play with that game. I didn't play games. I didn't shoot it. I just was like, this is too much. I am not going to mess with this thing. And I took off, ran, didn't even look back, got to my truck and drove home and made it. Now, I don't know if this thing chased me or not. I don't know. And I've never seen anything like that in the whole world. And I've never seen anything like that before since. And I don't go out there anymore. And I don't even go hunting anymore because I know what's out there. And be aware, folks. These creatures are real. They are huge. They are silent. They are smart. And don't even go into where they live. All right? God bless the USA. Well, I'll be. That's a hootenanny of a story there, Mike. I just knew when I first started talking to you that was, I had to share this with folks, and I thank you for coming on tonight's program. Wow. Thank you very much, Mike. No problem. Take care, Vic. Okay, good night, Mike. See you soon. Maybe we'll keep in touch. Okay, folks, that'll do it. I'm your host, Mick Vic Jaggeth. Have a good night. Later.